Thank you very much. Wow. It's wonderful to be here in the Merlin Theatre. They say you play the Merlin Theatre twice in your career. Once on the way up, and once on the way down. It's great to be back. All credits to Ian McPherson for that joke, it's a great joke. So today, we're going to follow in the steps of two of my heroes, Adam Savage and Jamie Hyman. And we're going to challenge a myth, we're going to test a myth. And that myth is, does sport improve young people's behaviour? To do that, as the good mythbusters that we are, we first need to establish a bit of context around our myth. And the context of our myth is this. Sport is weird. Sport is strange. What I'm showing you here is underwater hockey, also known as octopush. Now, the purpose of the sport, as you can see, is you swim at the bottom of the pool with a blade about this big, and you push a puck on the bottom of the pool and you try and score. Which you laugh at and you scoff at and you think, well, that's very strange. Why would anyone want to ever do that? Well, let's think back to basketball. I would have loved to be in Massachusetts in 1891 when James Naismith invented the game of basketball. And people must have, on the sideline, must have looked at him and thought, so what's the point here, James? You get a ball and you put it in a basket, and you take it out and you put it in another basket. There's no future in this. There's no money in this. No one would ever want to do this. But you fast forward to now, and basketball, like many sports, is incredibly valued. And it is very valued in the UK, not basketball, sport in general. Now, UK's attitude towards sport could be summarised in one single, simple sentence. And it is this. Everything is awesome. As the Lego movie says, please don't repeat the song in your head constantly. And when we talk about sport, I'm not going to be talking about sport as Olympics. We're not going to be talking about elite sport. We're not going to be talking about sport as a cure for diabetes. No. We're going to be focusing on the myth that sport has inherent attributes and properties that are suited to improving young people's social and psychological development. The myth that sport can improve young people's behaviour. And the myth that sport somehow has inherent magical properties that can teach young people life skills like teamwork and leadership. I mean, you guys must have heard phrases like rugby teaches leadership, football teaches teamwork. These are the myths we're going to attempt to dissect. And to do that, we need to use some research. In fact, we're going to use my own PhD research. And as the introduction said, my research consisted of 6-7 months of hanging out with a charity in the UK offered sport opportunities for disadvantaged young people, under the belief that sport would help them develop as human beings and people. So, what I'm going to present to you now is my data in 3 stories. Our first story is about teamwork. That's the best cliched image I could find online. And picture this. It's the end of the school day, 3:30. 13-year-olds go down to play basketball with their coach. I've been hanging out in these sessions for about 6 weeks now, and I've seen the same group of young people play. They run through drills, they do their training, and I've just sat there observing, basically seeing what's cooking. And on the 7th week, I see this young boy come through the door. I've never seen him before. He's 13. Let's call him Jimmy. Jimmy picks up a basketball. Within 2 bounces, I realize, uh-oh, Jimmy's not very good. Compared to everyone else, Jimmy's actually terrible. I wonder how he's going to do today. Well, the session starts and Jimmy stinks. There's no other way to put it. Jimmy is just not very good. He is technically and tactically inferior to everybody else, but he gets no support from his teammates. The session continues and a tough drill develops. The team have to work together. They need a high level of technique and tactics. Jimmy cannot do it. He is really struggling. So, what happens? The drill starts, Jimmy gets it wrong, and the coach says, go back, start again. They start again, Jimmy gets it wrong, start again. And they reboot, start again, start again, start again. The atmosphere becomes volatile, it becomes tense, anger aimed at Jimmy. Jimmy's not really sure what to do with himself, he just sticks it out. Eventually they complete the drill, the session ends, but the atmosphere is quite bad. And I realized, what's the moral to this story? Well, what did Jimmy learn? Did he learn teamwork? No, he did not. Did his teammates learn about teamwork? No, they did not. So, what happened here? Well, just because you play in a team doesn't mean you learn teamwork. And that's an important moral to dissect our myth. The second story is not so doom and gloom. The second story is what I like to call double or nothing. Same charity. Now, Different coach, different kids, different court. Same basketball. Playing basketball, it's a physical training session, physical conditioning session, but the atmosphere is more joyous, more energetic. The young people are enjoying it, they have a good relationship with their coach, it's all working well. Now the coach gives them this drill. They have to run across the court and score in about 3 passes, and they have to score as many baskets as possible in 2 minutes. The team do this. They manage to score 6 baskets. The coach brings them together and he says, right guys, an NCAA college basketball team in the United States, this very drill, in 2 minutes, they can score 22 baskets. With light of that knowledge, how many baskets do you guys think you can score? And they say, coach, we can score 15. And the coach says, that's fine. We'll do it again. If you don't score 15, you owe me a Super 17. And a Super 17 consists of running the width of a basketball court, which might be almost the width of this stage approximately. Sprint, touch the line, sprint, touch the line, sprint, touch the line, 17 times. It's grueling. It is a tough punishment. So off the kids go, 2 minutes go by, they've scored 10 baskets, they fall short, they fail. They owe the coach a Super 17. Dismayed, they're about to start, and one 16-year-old jumps up and says, coach, double or nothing. To which a 12-year-old goes, no, coach, don't listen to him, he's crazy, he's crazy. If we fail, we have to run a Super 34. No, 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 no. Coach says, guys, get together, you have 30 seconds to discuss. And as he says this, and the kids huddle, the coach turns to me, gives me a cheeky grin and a wink, and goes, yeah, I love this. So the kids get together, they decide to do it, double or nothing. They run the drill, with 2 seconds left to go, they score the 15th basket. They succeed. The atmosphere explodes, energy everywhere, happiness. They're so proud of each other. They're so, so, so happy. And I'm on the sidelines thinking, you know what I've learned from this, the moral of this story? The importance of autonomy, i.e. having an input in your environment, and the importance of a sense of belonging. Because these young people feel like they belong in this session. They feel they can alter this session. They feel they have a chance to impact on how the coach works with them and what they do. Important morals. Now, our third story. We move away from basketball into the realm of table tennis. Now this image is of a table tennis session in Toronto, and the only reason I'm showing it to you is because the layout of the tables mimics the layout of the gym at the end of school where the charity practices table tennis. It's about 12 tables, 24, 25 young people, 11 to 17 years old, just playing table tennis. And one coach, Coach Jake, and he sat at the entrance with a list and ticks people off as they come in. And after I'm sat with Jake, who doesn't do anything else, just tick lists, I tell him, Jake, I ask him, Jake, what's the deal here, man? Are you going to do any coaching? And he says, no, too many kids, you can't coach. It's too much to do. And I thought, okay, fair enough. But what about behaviour? I mean, there's kids everywhere. Don't you need to get up, walk around, control this, crowd control? And he says, no, they know what they're doing. They're fine. And sure enough, after an hour and a half of watching, I realized there are no problems. Everyone knows what they're doing, everyone's playing. Yeah, some of the young kids horse around for a little bit, 1 minute or two, but then they get back to playing. No one has to control anything. And it dawned on me, the third moral, passion. The importance of passion. These young people want to be there. They love to play table tennis. And when they love to do something, they don't need anyone to control their behavior. So it got me thinking a little bit more. How important is passion? Well, I'm going to suggest it's extremely important, and I'm going to use an analogy to make the point. Now, bear with me. This might seem a little bit strange at the start. So, there is sometimes, supposedly, a statistical phenomenon which happens in the United States, sometimes of the year. And the statistical phenomenon is, the more ice cream people eat, the higher the murder rates are. I think, well, this is weird. Well, this could either be because the more ice cream we eat, the more murdery we get, if that even is a word. Or it means that something else is going on. Something else connects to ice cream and murder rates. Something like the weather. Because, think about it, when it's cold, you stay indoors, not eating ice cream. When it's warm, everyone goes out onto the street. You suddenly find yourself surrounded by shirtless dudes and people using selfie sticks. No wonder you start to think about murdering people. Especially if you can celebrate with ice cream afterwards. So, there's a hidden variable that connects ice cream consumption and murder rates. What does this have to do with sport and behavior improvement? Well, I think sport is the ice cream, and I think behavior improvement are the murder rates. I don't think sport itself improves behavior. I think there's a hidden variable, passion, which influences sport and influences behavior improvement. And if we think about this in the context of that table tennis session, if the passion increased the young people's desire to play the sport, and passion also increased their behavior management. They wanted to be there. They enjoyed being there. But I have a bit more evidence about this passion argument because I've conducted some interviews with coaches and with young people. And this is some of the things they had to say. This is Coach Vincent, one of the basketball coaches. I suppose in many ways, the kids that come to our programs, they want to be there. They're committed to be there. They enjoy being there. So behavior is never really an issue. Susie, who also played basketball, age 14, if they don't love it, basketball, they wouldn't continue to play. And they wouldn't come to morning training, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. It's ridiculous, but if you don't like the sport, then you won't do it. You won't really care about it. Putting your hours, your time, into something you don't really like, which seems quite obvious. And lastly, Coach Jake, table tennis Coach Jake. They're always well behaved with me because they want to play table tennis. They love it. And also, they don't want to be in class. Which says a lot. Again, they want to be somewhere, so they behave better than somewhere else. And this resonates a lot with what another basketball coach said, his favorite phrase, which is, my kids, there are angels on the court, demons in the classroom. And again, the role of passion comes up. So what? We've been talking about a variety of things, so let's recap. We've established that there is a myth. There is a myth that sport has inherent values and attributes that are ideally suited to improve young people's behavior, to develop them socially and psychologically. And as the Mythbusters that we are, we've challenged this myth using some research. I've told you 3 stories, and the morals of those 3 stories were that just because you play in a team doesn't mean you learn teamwork. We've learned that the importance of autonomy and having a sense of belonging, and we've also learned that passion plays an important role. Therefore, the question now becomes, does sport itself have inherently positive attributes or values, or is it more about how sport is used? Well, I think it's the second one. I think it's more about how sport is used. Which then leads us to a further question. If sport itself doesn't improve young people's behavior, how can you use sport to achieve that? Well, need 3 things. This. Passion. Think about it in your own context. When you're at a place you want to be, what's your behavior like? You're keen, attentive, interested. When you're somewhere you don't want to be, your behavior goes down. It's not that great. Human relationships. I've not mentioned it explicitly, but I've hinted at it throughout the presentation. If we think back to our first story, with the basketball, with the teamwork, where things did not work out, where were the human relationships there? Where was the care? Where was the empathy? It wasn't there. When we go to our second story, double or nothing, human relationships flourished left, right, and center. Because the young people felt they could talk to their coach, they had an influence over their coach, they had a good relationship with the coach, they had a good relationship amongst each other. So human relationships are essential. And lastly, the sense of belonging and autonomy. Having an impact and feeling like you belong somewhere. Which again, if you think back to your lives, this is not rocket science. Where are the places you're most comfortable? The places where you really feel you belong. So, what's the moral of the story? Well, some people might still think that sport, there's an X factor to sport. That sport has something that no other activity has, that to really improve young people's behavior. But if that were the case, then that would mean that the more sport you play, the better the human being you'll become. Consequently, those who play more sport will eventually become extraordinary human beings. Which is exactly what professional footballers are, right? So the math doesn't seem to add up. What's also interesting about these elements is that they're not unique to sport, are they? You can achieve them through any activity. Interpretive dance, finger painting, drama, stamp collecting, you name it. So, where does this leave us? We go back to the start, we go back to our myth. And we see that the myth that sport improves young people's behavior is myth-busted. I've always wanted to say that. It's myth-busted because sport itself doesn't have any attributes that can improve or help young people's behavior, their social or psychological development, or teach them life skills. It is all about how sport is used. And let me be clear, I'm not saying sport is bad, not at all. We saw from my data, my examples, and you must have seen anecdotes and stories, that sport can be wonderful. But sport, like any other activity, can be wonderful if you develop passion, if you create a sense of autonomy and of belonging, and if you foster meaningful, deep human relationships. If you achieve that through sport or any activity, you can achieve some truly extraordinary things with young people. Thank you very much.